There are wounds that don't bleed. They just sit inside you, quietly rotting everything you once trusted. That's the sentence that played in my mind the day my world collapsed, the day I learned that the two people I trusted most had chosen each other over me. But this story doesn't start with destruction. No, it begins with warmth, with comfort, with the kind of naive faith only people who haven't yet been broken can afford to hold. I grew up believing loyalty was simple. If you loved someone, you stayed. If someone hurt your friend, you walked away from them, no questions asked. If someone broke your heart, your best friend became your shelter. For most of my life, I believed I had that kind of shelter in Lena. Lena and I weren't just friends, we were stitched into each other's stories. We grew up 2 blocks apart, shared homework, shared clothes. Shared heartbreaks, crushes, secrets whispered over late-night calls where one of us would eventually fall asleep mid-sentence. People used to joke, "If you see one, the other isn't far." And they were right. When I pictured my future, the wedding, the home, the children, Lena was always somewhere in that picture. Not in the background, but beside me, my safe person, my constant. Life was simple then, even joyful. I worked as a receptionist at a dental clinic, nothing glamorous, but I knew every patient by name, and they knew me. Every morning smelled like fresh coffee and mint disinfectant, and every evening, Lena and I would meet at our favorite little bakery that served pastries too sweet to justify but too delicious to resist. It was during one of those evenings, cinnamon rolls warm between us, steam rising slowly, that he first appeared in my life. Ethan. He wasn't extraordinary at first glance, tall, dark hair, a quiet confidence that bordered on arrogant. But when he spoke to me, his eyes held a sincerity that felt rare. He ordered a black coffee, glanced my way, and smiled the kind of smile that made you want to earn another one. Lena nudged me under the table and whispered, "He's totally checking you out." I laughed it off then, but she was right, because the next day he returned, and the day after that. Before I even understood what was happening, Ethan became part of my routine, the bakery, the walks, the long conversations that stretched into memories. And slowly I let myself fall. In the beginning, things were beautiful. He opened doors. He listened. He made me feel chosen. I didn't notice the small cracks, the way he flinched when I laughed too loudly, the subtle criticism disguised as jokes, the passive-aggressive remarks about my friends, my clothes, my opinions. And if I did notice, I ignored them, because sometimes love isn't blind. It just closes its eyes and hopes. The first time his voice turned sharp, we were arguing about something small, I don't even remember what. But I remember the sound, the sudden shift, the way he said my name like it irritated him just to speak it. I froze, not because of fear, but because of confusion. That version of him felt like a stranger wearing the face of the man I loved. He apologized quickly afterward, kissed my forehead, held my hands gently, promised it would never happen again. And I believed him. People always ask, "Why didn't you leave when he first showed you who he was?" The answer is simple, because the hurt didn't come all at once. It came slowly like cold water dripping onto warm skin, until eventually you forget you're shivering. Lena witnessed it all, the good, the bad, the slow unraveling. She was the one who held me when the first tear fell. The one who drove to my apartment late at night when Ethan's temper turned into something sharp and frightening. The one who whispered, "You deserve better." And I trusted her. Sometimes I trusted her more than I trusted myself, but somewhere along the way, without warning, without reason, something shifted. She stopped answering my calls as quickly. Her voice changed tone when Ethan's name was mentioned. She stopped coming over, stopped checking in, stopped asking how I was or if I was okay. And Ethan. He became distant too. His kindness turned into control. His concern turned into interrogation. His affection turned into possession. When I finally found the strength to walk away, shaking, breathless, terrified but determined, Lena was the first person I called. She picked up on the third ring. I still remember the exact moment I said the words, "I left him." The silence on the other end wasn't shock. It wasn't relief. It wasn't anger on my behalf. It was hesitation. A kind I had never heard from her before. She finally whispered, "Okay, I'll come tomorrow." But tomorrow didn't come. Not that week. Not the next. Not ever. Months passed. My heart slowly learned how to beat without fear. Therapy became my lifeline. Routine became my anchor. And silence, the painful kind, eventually turned into peace. Until one Sunday morning, sitting at my kitchen table with sunlight pouring through my curtains, I opened my phone and saw the headline notification that shattered whatever had healed inside me. A picture. A A wedding photo. Him, her, Ethan in a black suit, Lena in white, smiling, standing where I once imagined myself. The caption burned itself into my memory. Forever starts today. I didn't cry immediately. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I just stared numb, stunned, unable to comprehend how betrayal could wear a bridal gown and still look proud. In that moment, one thought echoed through me like a scream I couldn't voice. My best friend married the man who abused me. And in that moment, something inside me cracked in a way that could never be undone. I don't know how long I sat there staring at that photo. Minutes, maybe hours. Time stopped meaning anything. All I could see was her hand resting gently over his, the same hand that once held mine when I cried because of him. The same woman who swore she'd never let me go through pain alone, now smiling beside the source of my darkest memories. Grief doesn't always feel like sadness. Sometimes it feels like disbelief. Like the world just tilted sideways and you're the only one who noticed. My phone buzzed again. Messages began pouring in, coworkers, mutual friends, even people I barely remembered. Some sent screenshots, some asked if I knew, some offered pity wrapped in curiosity, and one message, just one, shattered what little strength remained. It was from Lena. A single line, "I hope someday you'll understand." No explanation, no apology, no acknowledgement of what she had done or what he had done. Just those words, cold, detached, entitled, as if her happiness now deserved forgiveness more than my pain deserved honesty. I put the phone face down on the table and stared out the window, trying to make sense of something that made no sense. That night, sleep wouldn't come. My mind replayed everything, every memory, every warning sign, every conversation where I trusted her with my wounds and she held them gently. Or so I thought. Around 3 a.m., I walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and caught my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were different, not softer, not broken, but older, like I finally understood something I wasn't meant to yet. And that understanding hurt more than anything Ethan ever said or did. Because I realized betrayal isn't just about what someone does to you, it's about what they choose not to protect you from. The next morning, I made a decision. I needed answers. Not closure, just truth, so I dialed her number. 5 rings. Voicemail, again, voicemail. The third time, she picked up. Her voice was calm, too calm, not nervous. Not guilty, just distant. Hey, not I know this is awful, not we need to talk, not I'm sorry, just hey, like we were acquaintances discussing weather. My voice trembled, but not from weakness, from restraint. Lena, why him? A long silence. I could hear her breathing steady, controlled. Well, she finally said, things happen, people change, you moved on. So did I laughed, not because anything was funny, but because disbelief sometimes comes out as laughter. Moved on, I whispered. I escaped him. Another pause, this one colder. Then she said something I'll never forget, not because it hurt, but because it revealed the truth behind everything. Just because your experience with him was bad doesn't mean mine will be. My breath caught. She continued casually, like she wasn't dismantling years of trust. You see abuse. I see someone who was misunderstood, someone who changed. I felt something inside me shut down. Not anger, not heartbreak, just finality. Didn't change, I said quietly. You did. Before she could answer, I ended the call. Not in rage, not as revenge, but because sometimes silence is the only boundary left to draw. After that call, the grief hit full force. Not tears of heartbreak, but of realization. Because losing Ethan never destroyed me. Losing her did. She was the person I expected to stand beside me through every storm, not become the storm. Weeks passed. I didn't speak to anyone. I avoided places we shared. I deleted photos, messages, old memories, not out of bitterness, but out of self-preservation. Healing isn't dramatic, it's slow, quiet, exhausting. Some nights I woke up gasping for air because my mind kept replaying moments, his anger, her hugs, their wedding photo. Some days I convinced myself none of it mattered. Other days, everything hurt. About a month later, I ran into someone we both knew, a mutual friend named Harper. She hugged me tightly, holding the kind of silence that said she already knew the story. I heard what happened, she whispered. I nodded. Harper hesitated, then said, I don't think Lena was just helping you all those months. I think she was falling for him behind the scenes. My stomach twisted. She continued, voice soft but steady. He manipulated her the same way he manipulated you. Only difference is, she thought choosing him would make her powerful. Powerful. That word haunted me. Because suddenly the puzzle pieces aligned. Lena didn't betray me instead of being loyal. She betrayed me because loyalty required strength and she didn't have it. But submission, that was easier. Months passed, and slowly my life reshaped itself not around the pain but around the space it left. I got a new job at a pediatric clinic, started hiking again, found new friends slowly, carefully. Trust didn't return quickly, but it returned with better judgment. Some scars stayed tender. Some memories stayed sharp. But gradually, I learned to breathe again, without fear, without them. 6 months later, I received one more message from Lena, a short paragraph. Something had happened, something she didn't say fully but didn't need to, because her first sentence told the whole story. You were right about him. There was more apologies, explanations, regret, rewriting history in her favor, but I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally knew something she didn't. Healing means walking away even when the broken person finally comes crawling back. And that's when I realized I didn't lose a friend. I lost an illusion. The truth? A friend cannot betray you. Only someone pretending to be one can. I didn't reply to Lena's message. Not that day. Not the next. Not ever. The silence I gave her wasn't revenge, it was closure. For so long, I had been the one holding the relationship together, checking in, forgiving, excusing, reaching out. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to do that anymore. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop showing up where you are no longer respected. A few weeks later, I heard rumors, gentle whispers traveling through the same social circle that once held our memories. People said their marriage wasn't what the photos showed. Some said they fought often, loudly, publicly. Some said Ethan had become controlling and paranoid, accusing her of things that didn't exist. Some said she cried in the grocery store one afternoon when someone asked how married life was. But rumors are just echoes, soft, distorted, incomplete. Still, every story sounded familiar, because I remembered that version of him, the one who could charm a room and destroy a person's confidence in the same breath. It didn't surprise me that history repeated. What surprised me was how little satisfaction it brought. Pain doesn't disappear just because the person who caused it finally suffers too. Sometimes it just sits quietly and watches, not relieved, not vengeful, simply finished. One morning while making tea, a thought washed over me. If she had come sooner, before the wedding, before the betrayal, would I have forgiven her? The truth settled heavy in my chest. Yes, I would have, because the version of me back then was still hopeful, still trusting, still willing to believe the best in someone who once held my tears and called them sacred. But betrayal changes the fabric of a relationship. It doesn't just break trust, it rewrites memories. Suddenly, kindness feels suspicious. Shared moments feel fragile. Inside jokes feel stolen. Some things, once shattered, can never be placed back into the same shape. Life moved forward quietly at first, then steadily. I began journaling again. I started taking self-defense classes, not because I expected danger, but because I needed to feel powerful in my own body again. I stopped apologizing for things that weren't my fault, stopped shrinking to make others comfortable, stopped confusing attachment with loyalty. It wasn't a transformation, it was a slow reclamation. Piece by piece, I returned to myself. One afternoon, during a therapy session, my therapist asked a question I wasn't prepared for. Are you angry at her? Or at yourself? The question sank deep. I stared at the floor for a long moment before whispering, both. I was angry at her for betraying me. But deeper than that, beneath the grief, beneath the shock, I was angry at myself for ignoring the early signs. Because now, looking back, I could see them clearly. How she would light up when he entered a room. The way she defended his behavior even when I cried. Her dismissive tone when I expressed fear or discomfort. The way she pressured me to give him another chance. None of those moments were innocent. They were breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs I didn't follow because I trusted her more than I trusted myself. Healing required acknowledging that truth, not to punish myself, but to never repeat it. About 9 months after their wedding, I received another message, this time from an unknown number. When I opened it, my breath caught. It was Ethan. His tone was softer than I remembered, polished, apologetic. He wrote, I want to apologize, I wasn't myself back then, I made mistakes, I hope you're doing well. No accountability, no acknowledgement of harm, just an attempt to rewrite history with pretty words. In the past, I would have spiraled, replayed memories, justified, doubted myself. But now, I looked at the message and felt nothing. No fear, no longing, no betrayal, just distance. So I responded with 2 words, not angry, not emotional, just honest. Do better. Then I blocked him. Not out of hatred, but because closure doesn't require conversation. Sometimes closure is a boundary. Several months later, I saw Lena in person for the first time since everything happened. I was sitting at an outdoor cafe, sipping iced tea, enjoying the warmth of the afternoon when I saw her walking toward the entrance. She didn't see me at first. Her head was lowered, her shoulders tense, her eyes tired. When she finally noticed me, she froze. For a brief moment, her face flickered, relief, guilt, hope, regret, all tangled together. She hesitated, then walked toward me. "Hi," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Hi." We sat in silence for a moment, two people who once shared everything, now strangers with too much history between them. Finally, she spoke. "I'm not here to justify anything. I wanted to say I'm sorry, truly." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was special," she continued. "I thought he treated me differently. I thought if he chose me over you, it meant I was worth something." Her voice cracked. "But now I know he didn't choose me. He just needed someone new to control." For the first time in a long while, I didn't see her as the girl who hurt me. I saw her as someone who hurt herself too, willingly, blindly. But apology alone doesn't rebuild what betrayal destroyed. So I said gently, "Thank you for apologizing. I hope you find healing." She nodded, not expecting forgiveness, just grateful for civility. Before she walked away, she turned back and whispered, "You didn't deserve what happened to you, and I hope you know losing you was the worst consequence of all." Then she left. And for the first time, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. Healing didn't mean forgetting. Healing meant remembering without reliving. And finally, I could. I didn't sleep the night after the engagement party. I kept replaying Ethan's words in my head. "Lucy and we've developed feelings. You trigger my trauma. She understands me better than you ever could." Every sentence felt like someone was carving into my chest with a knife. The worst part, Lucy's face. She didn't look guilty. She looked relieved, almost like she had been waiting for that moment, like stealing my life was always a part of her plan. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages, some from family offering sympathy, most from people asking if the rumors were true. Rumors like, "Ethan left me because I was abusive. Lucy saved him. I was mentally unstable. I forced Ethan to stay." It was like the world flipped upside down overnight. Somehow the victim became the villain, and the abuser became the hero. 2 days later, I found myself sitting alone in my apartment, staring at my engagement ring. The same ring Ethan had once said belonged to the woman he couldn't imagine life without. Now, it was just a reminder that love isn't always beautiful. Sometimes it's manipulation dressed as devotion. I knew I had to face them, not to fight, not to beg, but to understand. So I went to the one place I knew they would be, Lucy's apartment. When I got there, I stood outside her door for a full minute before knocking. My hands trembled. My heart pounded like I was about to walk into a crime scene. Maybe in a way I was, because love can be a crime when it's stolen. The door opened, and there they were, Ethan and Lucy, standing side by side. Like a couple, like they never needed me, like I was the intruder. Before either of them spoke, I noticed something. Lucy was wearing my robe, a silk champagne robe Ethan gifted me last winter. My name wasn't embroidered on it because now it might as well belong to her. Ethan cleared his throat. "Why are you here?" I took a breath, held it, and forced myself to speak calmly. "I just want the truth, the real truth, not excuses." Lucy crossed her arms and leaned against the counter, acting casual, like I wasn't standing there heartbroken. "Fine," she said. "I'll say it. I fell in love with him, and he fell in love with me." A laugh escaped me, sharp, painful, broken. "Fell in love," I repeated. "You were planning my wedding. You held my hand while I cried about him. You told me you wanted us to be happy." She shrugged. "You don't get to own a man just because you dated him first." My jaw clenched. "That man was my abuser." Silence. A long, cold silence. Lucy's eyes flickered, but not with regret, with irritation. "You always exaggerate," she said dismissively. "You're dramatic, overly emotional. Everything is abuse with you." My throat tightened. Those were Ethan's words. Now Lucy was repeating them. The realization hit me. She didn't just fall in love with him. She absorbed him. She became his voice, his defense, his mirror. Ethan finally stepped forward. "No one is perfect," he said softly. "But Lucy loves me exactly as I am, flaws and all." Flaws, like screaming at me for wearing the wrong clothes. Flaws, like destroying my confidence. Flaws, like telling me who I could speak to and who I couldn't. Those weren't flaws. Those were wounds disguised as affection. I swallowed back tears. "So while I was healing from everything you did to me, you two were falling in love behind my back," Lucy smirked. "We didn't plan it." "But you didn't stop it," I whispered. Ethan said nothing, because silence was easier than guilt. Finally, I took off the engagement ring. The metal felt cold, heavier than ever before. I placed it on the table between us. It didn't belong on my hand anymore. It belonged in the past, in the lies, in the betrayal. "Keep it," I said quietly. "It matches the both of you, broken and worthless." Lucy scoffed. "You're being childish." "No," I replied. For the first time, I'm being honest. As I turned to leave, Ethan called after me. Wait, I stopped, not because I still loved him, but because a part of me wanted closure. He walked closer, lowering his voice. You'll move on, you're strong, maybe stronger than you know. I stared at him, the man I once prayed for, the man I once believed was my forever, and I finally said, I wasn't meant to move on, Ethan, I was meant to wake up. I walked away, not because I wasn't hurting, but because I finally understood. You don't stay where you're betrayed, you don't beg for love from those who left, and you don't shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. That night I blocked them both, not for revenge, but for peace. And as I lay in bed, tears drying on my pillow, a strange, quiet thought came to me. What if losing them was the beginning of finding myself? People think revenge means screaming, breaking things, burning bridges. Mine wasn't like that. My revenge was quiet. Soft, calculated. The kind that doesn't ruin you, it rebuilds you. Because the best revenge isn't hurting them back. It's making them watch you rise. After blocking Ethan and Lucy, I deleted photos, messages, and memories, not because I wanted to forget, but because I wanted to stop giving pain a place to live. But I didn't delete everything. Some things I kept, screenshots, texts, evidence, words he swore he'd never say, proof of the controlling, gaslighting manipulation I endured. I wasn't saving them out of bitterness. I was saving them for the moment they would matter. And oh, that moment came faster than I expected. 3 weeks after the confrontation, my phone buzzed with a familiar number, Ethan's mother. She had always loved me, or at least respected me. She never approved of Lucy. She called her selfish, desperate, attention-seeking. Now she said, "Sweetheart, we need to talk." When I arrived at her house, she hugged me longer than usual. She looked tired, like she'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. "What happened?" I asked. She sighed. "They're planning the wedding." My stomach twisted, not with hurt this time, but rage. My wedding, my venue, my bridesmaid, my fiancé, my story, stolen, used, rewritten, like I never existed. Ethan's mother poured tea, her voice shaking. "He told everyone you were unstable, that you were controlling, that he had to escape." There it was, the narrative, their justification. Pain crawled up my throat, but I forced it back. "So everyone believes him," she hesitated before answering. "Some do, some don't, but people talk. People always talk, especially when you're silent, so I decided I wouldn't be silent anymore. That night I opened my laptop. I didn't rant, I didn't insult, I didn't rage. I simply told my story with screenshots, with timelines, with truth. No drama, just facts. And the internet did the rest. People shared it, commented. Exposed patterns, defended me. The narrative shifted. Suddenly I wasn't the crazy ex, I was the survivor. And they became the villains in the story they tried to write me out of. 2 days later, Ethan texted me from a new number. "Why are you doing this?" I typed nothing. Silence hurts louder than screaming. Then Lucy messaged, "Take it down, you're ruining our reputation." I smiled. My reply was simple. "Did you really think betrayal came without consequences?" But revenge wasn't just exposing the truth. Revenge was living better, so I put my energy into me. I started running again. I attended therapy. I changed my hair. I updated my wardrobe. I applied for the promotion I'd been too scared to chase and got it. For the first time in years, I wasn't someone's shadow. I was my own person, and it felt intoxicating. But life has a wicked sense of timing. Because just when I started healing, just when I started smiling again, just when I started feeling whole, Ethan came back. Not as a fiancé, not even as a friend, but as a broken man. One evening he showed up at my door, eyes red, shoulders tense, like someone who'd swallowed regret and now choked on it. "I shouldn't be here," he whispered. "You shouldn't," I agreed, but he stayed silent, and silence is confession. Finally he spoke. "She cheated on me." My heart didn't race, my tears didn't form, I didn't break. Instead, I laughed. A quiet, amused laugh. "Of course she did," I said. He stared at me, wounded, confused. "You're not even surprised." "No," I replied coldly. "You don't lose good people by accident, you lose them by choice, and you chose her." He swallowed hard. "I made a mistake." Mistake, funny word. A mistake is forgetting an umbrella, not destroying someone's life. He stepped closer, his voice desperate. "I miss you." "I don't." His jaw tightened. "I thought you would forgive me." "Oh, Ethan," I murmured, meeting his eyes. "You didn't break my heart, you broke your character." He blinked. "And I delivered the final blow. You traded loyalty for convenience, and now you lost both." He tried to reach for my hand. I stepped back. Revenge wasn't yelling or slamming doors. Revenge was this moment, standing in front of the man who once made me feel small and realizing he no longer had that power. I opened the door. "Goodbye, Ethan," his eyes pleaded. "Please don't do this." But I already had, not to him. To myself, I chose me, and that will always be the sweetest revenge. After Ethan showed up at my door with regret dripping from every word, something inside me finally settled. Not because I wanted him back, not because his apology mattered, but because I realized his validation no longer meant anything. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in reaction to him. I wasn't waiting for his approval. I wasn't trying to fix what was never my fault. I was free. Life didn't get perfect overnight. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a messy, chaotic journey full of relapses, realizations, and rebuilding. But slowly, I started living again, not just existing. I traveled. I learned to say no without explaining. I woke up without anxiety pressing against my chest. I smiled, genuinely, not because someone wanted me to, but because I finally felt joy again. Then, 6 months later, something unexpected happened. I met someone. Not the way you meet someone in movies. Not in the rain, not in an airport, not in a dramatic coincidence. No, I met him in the quietest, simplest way, at a bookstore. He was standing in the psychology section reading a book titled Trauma Bonds and Recovery. I made a joke. He laughed. And somehow a conversation became an hour, then coffee, then dinners, then something soft and safe and new. His name was Adrian. Where Ethan made me afraid to speak, Adrian listened. Where Ethan wanted control, Adrian respected boundaries. Where Ethan needed ego, Adrian offered compassion. He didn't try to fix me. He just held space for the version of me that was healing, and loved the version of me that was becoming. People say when you finally meet the right person, you understand why it never worked with anyone else. I didn't fully believe that until Adrian. He never rushed me, never compared me, never questioned my past. Instead, he admired my strength for surviving it. One night, while we sat under soft fairy lights on my balcony, he said, "You aren't broken, you're someone who was lied to about their worth." And for the first time in years, I believed it. Life felt full again. Work was thriving. My confidence was rebuilding. My world wasn't small anymore, it was expanding. And that's when the last twist arrived, not from Ethan, but from Lucy. It happened on a random Tuesday morning when I received a message request. Her name appeared on the screen like a ghost from a past life. At first, I ignored it. But eventually, curiosity won. I opened it. The message was short. "You ruined my life. Are you happy?" I stared at the words. No guilt. No fear, no sadness, just closure. I replied, "No, Lucy, I didn't ruin your life. You did when you built it on lies." She left it unseen. Sometimes silence is the only answer someone deserves. Weeks passed. Then one afternoon, I ran into her at a cafe. She looked nothing like the woman who once stole everything from me. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged, her smile gone. She approached, not with power, but with defeat. "I just want to know," she whispered. "Why aren't you angry anymore?" I thought for a moment, then said, "Because you're no longer someone who can touch my life." She blinked. "Do you ever think you'll forgive me?" I met her eyes. She wanted redemption. She wanted absolution. She wanted the version of me who shrank herself to make others comfortable. But that version was gone. So I answered truthfully, "No, but I'm not carrying hate, I just don't care anymore." She swallowed, nodded, and walked away. And that was the real ending. Not revenge, not confrontation, not destruction, just indifference. Months later, Adrian and I moved in together. One evening, while packing my final box, a small one labeled Old Life, I found the last remnant of Ethan, the wedding planning binder. For a moment, I paused, not with grief, with gratitude. Because sometimes the things that break us are the same things that rebuild us stronger. I carried the binder to the balcony and lit a match. It burned slow, pink tabs melting, old printed vows turning to ash, timelines disappearing into smoke. I didn't cry. I didn't mourn. I smiled. Because flame didn't just destroy the memories, it released them. A year later, on the same date Ethan left me, I stood in front of a mirror. Not as someone's fiancé, not as someone's second option, not as someone broken, but as someone whole. And when Adrian walked up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist and whispered, "You're safe now." I knew something important. The story didn't end when they broke me. It began when I chose myself. Betrayal didn't define me. Healing didn't weaken me. Rebuilding didn't make me hard, it made me wiser. And my final revenge wasn't exposing them. It was becoming the woman they never believed I could be. The woman who healed. The woman who loved again. The woman who never needed them. Sometimes, life gives us endings we never expected, and sometimes, it gives us endings we desperately needed. If you've listened this far, maybe something in my story echoed inside you. Maybe you, too, know what it feels like to be betrayed by someone you trusted. Maybe you've sat in silence, wondering why people you loved chose to hurt you, wondering if you weren't enough, wondering if the pain was somehow your fault. But hear me clearly, you were not the mistake. You were the lesson, not for yourself, but for the people who underestimated you. People like Ethan, people like Lucy. People who thought you would never rise from the hurt they left behind. But you did. And if you're still on your way there, let my story be a reminder that healing doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like distance, boundaries, and peace. We don't always get apologies. We don't always get justice. We don't always get closure. But sometimes the closure is simply realizing, I survived what was meant to destroy me. And surviving, choosing yourself, is the most powerful ending anyone could ever write. As I look back now, I don't hold anger. I don't carry hate. Their choices are no longer chains around my heart. They are simply chapters I no longer read. I've learned that the past only has power when we keep feeding it, so I starved it. I stopped revisiting the moments that hurt. I stopped replaying the conversations I couldn't change. I stopped rewriting what already happened. And slowly, the pain loosened its grip. Slowly, I reclaimed myself. Slowly, I rebuilt my life, not as the woman who was abandoned, but as the woman who chose to walk forward anyway. So if you're listening right now, wherever you are, in a quiet room, on a late-night walk, or tucked into bed trying to rest through a storm in your chest, I want to say this gently. You deserve peace. You deserve love. You deserve safety. You deserve the kind of life that doesn't make you apologize for existing. And if nobody has told you lately, I'm proud of you. Whether you left a toxic relationship, survived betrayal, set boundaries, or even just took one step toward healing, that's strength. And strength isn't loud. Sometimes it simply sounds like, I will not let this break me. Thank you truly for staying with me through this story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for sharing a piece of time with me. Stories like this aren't just about pain, they're about transformation. About remembering that even when the world turns cold, there's still warmth waiting for you somewhere, even if that warmth begins with your own resilience. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think, if it made you feel seen, then I would love to invite you to stay a little longer. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. This place, this little corner of the internet, is for stories that speak to hidden wounds and quiet victories. Stories of love, loss, betrayal, survival, and eventually hope. Your support helps these stories reach people who may be sitting in the dark, waiting for a sign that they are not alone. And if there's one thing I've learned, no one should have to heal alone. So before we end, let me leave you with one final question, the same one I ask myself whenever life repeats an old lesson. If life gave you the chance to walk away from pain and walk toward peace, would you take it? Tell me in the comments. Because your story matters too. Until next time, take care of your heart, protect your peace, and always choose yourself first.